On this episode of Beer, Blues, and BS, Kidder and I are joined by a brand new guest, somebody who's making their Triple B debut, and it's a good one. Because Kidder and our guest spent some time together behind the mics. That's right, we're going to dive into the past a little bit as they share their glory days behind the mics as radio DJs. Get ready for funny stories, hilarious stories. I mean, I laughed a lot during all of this, but also a little bit of ranting, a little bit of raving. It's all good. You're in a great place. Welcome to the show.
It's Howard Blues and the Mark Kidder. Pour a cold beverage, pull up a seat, enjoy time with friends.
Triple B! Well, the Triple B sucks. Okay? Come on.
Whatever, man. This is Beer, Blues, and BS. Online at beerbluesbs.com.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Beer, Blues, and BS, the podcast that for some reason is kicking it old school radio tonight. Why? Because we can. And I forgot what I was going to say for an opening line. I am your host, the living embodiment of Charlie Brown, Howard Blues, here, as always, with my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, the Mark Kidder. Kidder, how you doing tonight?
Well, Howie Blues, I am fan-freaking-tastic. I am hopped up on caffeine. I am ready to go. I'd say it's been a week, but that's typically your line. And so whoa, holy crap, he's got the shirt. He's got the shirt on, folks, tonight. And, okay, so he says that it's been a week. I think tonight is going to be a night or a day or an afternoon or early morning, depending on where and when you are when you actually see or hear this train wreck. Howie Blues, how are you doing tonight?
Kidder, I'm doing all right. Yes, it's been a week, and unfortunately, it's all stuff I can't talk about. I love that work stuff that, you just can't say anything about. Got to be zipped about it. So it cuts down on what I can banter about. But let me just say, yeah, I'm glad it's Friday. I'm glad the week is over, and I'm ready to have some fun tonight.
That's good. Hopefully tonight is one of those shows, and of course, don't talk about it on the podcast because then the whole thing's going to get subpoenaed.
Yep.
Yes. So, Howie Blues, I have some news for you.
Oh, lay it on me.
It might even be breaking news.
Well, let's get that graphic out.
So, Howie Blues, I have been doing radio now for years, and I go way back. Started in the El Forco Grande, bringing it down across North Dakota, all over the place, and you know that my roots run deep. Made lots of, I can't even call them friends. I mean, basically, we're radio family. You know what I'm saying? Or perhaps it's all about family. You bring the Fast and the Furious into this, right? You're talking about family. Okay. So I put out a call. It was more of a text, but I put out the call to bring in one of my, and perhaps even yours, radio history lessons. And basically he's got his PhD by now because he was in radio long enough, and he's got a lot to say. A good old friend of mine from Grand Forks, now living elsewhere, smack dab in the middle of one brother Nico and one rude boy Kyle. It's PK himself, the Paul Kelly. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Gentlemen, how we doing?
Better now. I mean, look at that thing. He's over there. I'd say you're slapping the bass like good old times.
No,
but you don't have the bass.
This is. Well, I do have a bass right behind me back there. You can actually see it's the black and white Thunderbird there.
Might have to do that.
This is my number one. This is Martha. She is a Gibson Les Paul BFG. Stands for barely finished guitar. Currently tuned to an open G, Keith Richards style. So,
and that is the most musical lesson that we may have had on this show.
well, I mean, when you text me, you're like, it's about blues and beer and bar. I'm like, blues? Oh, okay.
Yep.
So, and I'm never more than about 5 feet from a guitar.
We've had several people on the show from several nationally touring rock bands, including
Cool.
Clinton Keenan from Another Lost Year, Blake Bedsold from the band Saul, and I should probably dig into the repertoire a little bit more and get some more of the cool people on from over the years. But you know what? Every week's another show. So here we are. And one of the things that we love to do on the show, PK, right at the top, it's typically everybody's favorite thing, and that is what's on tap. And now, you broke us some mildly heartbreaking news for us, but good news for your liver, and that is you had a resolution that you're getting dried out. You're not so much of a soak today as you usually are.
Well, I mean, through the 90s and 2000s, my bar bill was roughly the equivalent of the national debt of Uganda. So I was like, let's cut back a little bit. And plus, I'm getting a little saggy around the midsection in my old age. So I can't blink and burn 1,000 calories like I did in my 30s and 40s.
Sure.
So I was like, and both my wife and I are like, let's cut back a little bit. And not like we were, big booze hounds or anything, but it's not uncommon for me to have a couple of scotches or a couple of beers after work on a Friday. I'm actually, as far as what's on tap, I'm just drinking flavored water this evening. So,
did you flavor it yourself?
No, it came flavored. It's black cherry.
Did you fly to the location where it was flavored? Did you hand pick the flavor?
My wife did, actually. She's,
wow.
She's much more productive. I sat at home on my fat ass playing guitar.
That is amazing. She went all the way to the distribution center.
She's the greatest. Yeah. She's the best.
And are we thinking a certain brand of this? Is there calorie content?
It's 0 calories, 0 sugar.
Oh, so there's nothing in it. Did you get an empty can?
It's fizzy water with black cherry flavor. That's it. Yeah. I know I suck, but and mostly it's because we both want to cut back weight, especially me. I mean, I'm 6'1", and I was on New Year's Day, I was tipping the scales at 235, which is way too heavy for me. So I was like, yeah, let's cut out booze. Let's cut back on the way we eat. So yeah, that's like everybody else on the planet, I want to lose weight this year. So I just want to get under 200. That's my goal.
Well, very good. We're proud of you.
Thanks.
And I'm like Howard. I'm bringing out my inner journalist, and I'm asking the hard-hitting questions right here in Triple B. Thank you for answering. Straight to the point. Howard, what do you got tonight?
Well, Kidder, I'm going to a brewery that I seem to be enjoying a lot these days. That is the Distill Brewery out of Normal, Illinois. I'm not having one of their sours. No, I am having their peanut butter porter. So, yeah, it's an American porter with peanut butter flavor. It has tasting notes such as nutty, chocolatey, smooth. It is 6.1% alcohol by volume, 25 IBUs, and the description reads, chocolate and caramel notes from roasted malt collide with creamy peanut butter flavor, creating a luxurious combination on the palate. Subtle sweetness, medium body, and creamy mouthfeel give way to a smooth finish, providing a liquid dessert sensation for the senses. Cheers.
Sorry, did you say creamy mouthfeel?
It does say creamy mouthfeel on this.
Now you're picking up on the true meaning of this show. Thanks, PK. I knew you'd get it right away.
It's just because of the YouTube algorithm. I'm not going to touch that with a 10-meter cattle prod. There's just no way.
With the peanut butter porter?
Yeah. That's why is there peanut butter in everything all of a sudden? Peanut butter beer, peanut butter whiskey is disgusting.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm a whiskey drinker, and I try to swallow. I'm like that. It just about came out of my nose. God, that was awful.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder I always see peanut butter whiskey on sale.
Yeah. Bad idea.
Yeah. It's got a very peanut butter smell to it. So we'll see how it goes. It's surprisingly more bitter than I was expecting. So it's definitely got kind of a dark chocolatey feel or taste. I'm stuck on that word, mouthfeel.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. I think it was because of that like hairy Whopper that we talked about that one episode. It just
Mouthfeel and a hairy
What
Whopper.
the hell kind of podcast is this? Hairy mouth feels and creamy mouth feels and Jesus Christ.
I said it was on a YouTube, but it didn't
God,
mention which one.
God, I feel like Jodie Foster in The Accused, for Christ's sake.
yeah.
There's a timely joke. Welcome to the show.
It's a
Hey,
deep cut.
I have breaking news. Did you know the Skywalk at UND? They took it down. It's gone. Did you know?
I did know that. Yeah, I
It's
did.
gone. No, it's gone. And more breaking news: Walsh Complex. That sumbitch is gone too. It's
Walsh
out of here.
What? Why?
They took the whole thing's gone. They destroyed it. They took it down. They're building a new complex to fix their wrongs.
Well, God forbid UND students have a warm place to walk. Let's take that skywalk down when it's 80 below 90.
Well, did you know that McVeigh and West had already been taken down and reopened? Brand new residence halls,
I did
big
not know
glass
that.
fascias and everything.
Wow, getting all kinds of high tech.
I love that this is actually news to PK.
It is. Well, I mean, I live in a different place now, and
Yes.
we get back to Grand Forks. Like my wife is from here. She lived in Grand Forks for 7 years, and that's when we actually met for the first time. So she has a really good sense of Grand Forks, but I was born and raised there for the most part. So when I hear like, hey, this part of UND is gone, I'm like, what? That is news. That's huge. So,
I'm sorry. His face is just getting me right now because he took a big enough swig and
I
he got
noticed
too
that,
much of a
yeah.
mouthfeel, I think.
is it too much creamy mouth for you, Howard?
No, it's used to get.
Does it look like it?
It's kind of like worse the more I drink this. I was going to give it a better rating, but this is
I'm
like a
told if you relax
1.5.
your throat, it goes
Yeah.
down easier.
Well,
And
So
that's
this
what
would-
I heard. And
Too much foam on top of that or what?
it's that is not great.
Hey, we're like 5 minutes in and I broke PK. Like this is going
oh
great.
no, I haven't broken me yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Haven't broken me yet.
Good. We still have time.
All right.
Yeah,
The union
If
also
I
got
start
redone.
snorting, then you broke me.
Kidder, what are you having?
Suppose I should get something to drink. Tonight I have, yes, the Stone Cold Rocks glass.
Ah,
And it is a bigger than average rocks glass, I have to
Yeah, it
say.
is.
It's a bit girthy.
That's-
So,
that's more of a highball glass.
it is what it is. And since we have PK on, he has some roots of the Ireland, correct?
Yes, sir. I'm mostly Irish and Scandinavian.
See, I remember something every once in
You
a
do.
while.
I'm impressed.
I had a chance to meet one of the reps from this brand, Glendalough, and we talked about it on the show several times. But this is a delicious Glendalough pot still Irish whiskey, 43% alcohol by volumes, and this is a 750. Now it is made at Glendalough Distillery in Wicklow, Ireland, and is a product of Ireland. On the front, you see Saint Kevin. And
Saint Kevin. He sounds like the patron saint of like sweatpants.
yeah,
And Saint Todd and Saint
Yeah.
Perry.
right. But we got Kevin. He's holding the Blackbird, and on the other hand, it's the different herbs and spices that are grown on the mountain. And the bourbon casks soften and sweeten the whiskey. And then they have the oak casks complement and balance it with the classic pot still spices. And this is one of my favorite blends from Glendalough. We got to try a bunch of them. The cool thing, if you notice on the bottom, there are numbers. So then you can go on the Glendalough website, type in the numbers, and actually see what trees they took down to make the casks that they put this in.
Huh.
It's pretty hardcore. They also have gin and a forager on staff. The forager's on staff, goes out, finds the different herbs on the mountainsides around the distillery, and that's what goes into the pots when they're making that blend of gin.
Cool. All right.
So
I think that, Mark, I want to say, just looking at the spelling of that and knowing a bit about Gaelic, I think that's Glendalough, I think, is the more correct pronunciation.
Probably in Ireland, I would imagine.
Yeah, Glendalough.
But their rep kept saying that it's Glendalough because it's at the loch next to the Glenda.
But it ends in a GH, not a CH. So it'd be an F sound. Glendalough.
Yeah.
Gaelic. So the rep is smoking crack.
Probably.
You can tell him I said so.
I'm sure he'll never see this show. So
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah.
Tell him whatever you want. He did have a good recommendation, and I'll throw this one your way as well. I've had this on the show as well before.
Oh, I've had that.
It is phenomenal.
Stuff. Yep, that's good stuff.
The 7-year triple barrel age, and the cool thing about this, it's called elementally aging. They literally put this whiskey into the casks. They put it in shipping containers out on the west coast of Canada. So it's sealed from the elements, but depending on the temperature of that area of the country over the 7 years makes the whiskey taste different.
Mm-hmm.
And so every batch is slightly different. So
some of the best booze in the world comes out of the PNW, man. They make great beer. They make great whiskey. They have excellent wine. That's like my second choice of where I want to live, somewhere in the PNW. I'd live in BC or something like that. How's the nose on that, Marky?
Cheers, gentlemen. Lots of spice.
Slanja.
You get a ton of spice off of that, and I love that because I'm a huge rye fan myself.
Oh yeah, I was just recently turned on to rye by another guitar player friend of mine. Like I'd never had it. I'd always heard it, like in songs and stuff. And he heard people mention it, but I'd never tried it before. And he's like, "Here, wrap your lips around this," and gave me a glass of rye. And I was like, "This is amaze balls," and I became a fan immediately.
Mm-hmm. I love the peppery notes. That's I think what does it for me because I love putting pepper on food. And then with this, you get the strong spices, peppery notes. Then you get the smooth amber taste, and then a little bit of the ethanol bite right at the end. But it helps keep the pepper of the rye rolling on your tongue. So even right now, in that little sip that I had, my tongue is still going.
Yeah,
have another, please.
Drink
another.
more of that. Thank you, Sam. I have another.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a Scotch drinker at all? Either one of you boys?
Usually not.
No. If you like the
rye.
zip of that kind of rye, my personal favorite Scotch, if I'm willing to spend the money because it ain't cheap, is Ardbeg. It's like liquid campfire. It's really, really peaty and smoky. Absolute favorite Scotch. My brother-in-law got me a bottle of Ardbeg for Christmas a couple of years ago, and I made it last for almost 4 months. It's like you don't want to don't put rocks in it. Serve it at room temp in the right glass and just sip. I don't want to get demonetized by YouTube. It's effing awesome. It's my absolute favorite Scotch. And God love my brother-in-law for getting it for me. He's like, "Oh, Paul likes Scotch. I'll get him this." At the time, I don't know what it is now. I haven't bought it in a while, but at the time it was like $80 a bottle, but worth every penny. If you like Scotch, and if you like that kind of flavor, that kind of palate or whatever, profile. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Profile. That kind of flavor profile. I bet you would probably like Artback, and probably you too, Howard. I mean, if you like a nice creamy mouth, you'll like this. So.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, Kidder, we need to ask the important question on this, which is, how is the mouth feel on that?
Does it have a creamy mouth?
It's got a bit of a bite on it.
Yeah, it's a smoky mouth.
It really gets you in the teeth.
So, and then Mark, you know, I used to be a big Guinness drinker.
Yes,
I held the record at the Blue Moose, believe it or not, for fastest chug of a pint of Guinness. It was like just under 2 seconds. I beat the bartender. And you can ask Tyler, the head bartender at the Moose. He's like, ask him if PK is the record holder, and he'll say yes. I actually started drinking old style because it's like $7 a 6-pack for a 6-pack of Pounders, and it's like good cheap beer. And also I'm a Cubs fan, so I'm kind of required to drink old style. But that's my weapon of choice for beer now too. I mean, I still like Guinness, obviously.
I'm going to have to go out and find some of that, because if you look in the old Triple B fridge,
oh, you're empty, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, I have 5 bottles of whiskey, so I'm set.
Yeah, you're pretty much stocked up on the good stuff.
But it's the rest of it is not there. Now, if Brother Nico was on the show, he really loves those peaty, mossy, real heavy with the smoke scotches. And I can't. I've had a couple of them that are real peaty, and you get the out of it. And sometimes for me, the excess smoke taste kills it. And so I like the spice from the flavorings versus the smoke. But
fair enough.
It
is kind of an acquired taste.
I'll try it.
I'll crack a bottle of scotch. My wife, not a scotch drinker, and I'll crack even if it's just like mid-range stuff, like sort of my go-to. If I don't want to spend $100 on a bottle of booze, I'll get like Johnny Walker Black, and as soon as I crack the bottle, she's like, "What's that smell?" That's scotch, honey. She's like, "That's gross." She won't she won't even kiss me after I've had a glass of scotch.
Oh. Jeez.
Not for a while anyway. And I quit smoking too. I used to smoke a couple of years ago. Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks.
Proud of you for that, man.
Thank you. So now she has no excuse to, if I want to go in for a kiss, you can't be like, "You smell like smoke." So, what I noticed, because we're all in the voice business, you know what I've noticed after I quit smoking? Like, you think that smoking gives you kind of that rumble. If you listen now, like, I've always had a deeper voice, but I have more rumble now after the last couple of years after I've quit smoking.
Yeah.
I have much more resonance and
clears out.
Yeah. And singing wise too, I have way more lung power if I'm singing. And so cannot recommend enough quitting smoking if you're a smoker.
Love it. Love to hear that. Random side note, you are talking about smoking, but you may remember him. One of my current coworkers on 96.5 The Walleye is Bromo. Spending some time up at one of the Minot stations and all over the country. But of course, you remember him, and he wanted me to say hello to you because I name dropped that you were going to be on the show tonight.
Tell him I said hi back, and I hope he's doing well.
He's got his little cigar and he's a little stogie and still kind of just hanging on to it. But he's on right before me. 9 to 2, and then I take over and write the ratings ship. Not really. I don't know. I haven't seen a ratings sheet since I started, so whatever. It is what it is. Let's be honest. I'm very sad because I don't have the bottle of whiskey down here that I showed Howard last week. But it's a Captain's Table Star Trek whiskey out of the first batch, and the bottle was $300 and some dollars.
Man, whoever decided to start putting Star Trek logos on booze is now a multi-gazillionaire. One of my buddies in Grand Forks brought back from remember the old Star Trek experience in Vegas?
Yes.
He brought back a bottle of Klingon blood wine.
Yeah.
And it cost him like $200. And it's like a shitty Merlot. It's like nothing special, but just because it said Klingon blood wine on it, it's like
My bottle of blood wine is upstairs. But
of course it is. I forgot yours.
The Cardassian Canar.
Yeah, I forgot you're as big a truck nerd as I am. I forgot about that.
This is the rye whiskey. This is the anniversary edition for the 30th anniversary of DS9.
Yeah.
Made off of the initial prop that Quark uses when he's pouring Damar some glasses of Canar.
Mm-hmm. DS9 is actually probably I guess I'm more of a TOS guy, but I still DS9 is probably my second favorite.
Here was an Andorian Blue ale. Yep.
Very nice. Very cool. But do you I'm trying to think of the name of the booze now.
Chateau Picard?
No.
From the vineyards of Captain Jean-Luc Picard?
It's what they drink at the table in Undiscovered Country.
Romulan Ale?
Romulan Ale. Romulan.
I have 2 bottles upstairs.
It's illegal, Mark.
Yeah. But I have Ricin wine, from Ryza.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 bottles of that. There's 2 variants. One's from Deep Space Nine, and then the other one is from Enterprise. Have both of those upstairs. Haven't tried those yet.
I am deeply impressed.
The Canar. This is the regular bottle of Canar, and then it comes with the, that looks oddly familiar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Full descriptor on it. And Howard's like, we've already spent like 8 episodes on this. Why are we talking about this again? Why, Howard? Because Star Trek is damn more popular. But then also Federation of Beer. These guys work with local brewers to make Star Trek beers. They basically have the license through CBS Paramount and do all of the work and get it set up for you or for the companies. But they have an Engage Ale that was really cool, a Captain's Lager, a Enterprise Blonde Ale.
Wow.
I got to try that one in Vegas. A Vulcan Ale, Irish Red.
Okay, that's bullshit because Vulcans don't drink. They don't make their own booze.
Well, and there's the Engage Galaxy Class Ale.
Nice.
But you can find out more about them at federationofbeer.com.
I might check that out. That's pretty cool.
And they don't give me anything for that, so. But they do have some cool glasses too. I had to pick this up. The Galaxy Class Ale glass.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, collection of random stuff. All right. How about rock whiskey? Metallica has the blackened whiskey.
Blackened.
This is
that sounds like it should be a Scotch.
Maybe. Yeah, I suppose with the smoke in it, but
mm-hmm.
this is the limited edition 72 Seasons blend that they made for the new album from 2023 that I imported from Phoenix when I was down there earlier to see Metallica.
I forgot how big a you are for Metallica. You're like meat with Kiss.
How about the blackened rye? That one I can get locally. Haven't tried it yet. It's on the list. And then the regular is now. PK, did you know that each of these bottles of the standard blackened like this have a batch number?
Mark, up until about a minute and a half ago, I didn't even know those existed. So no, I did not know that.
I love it. I am happy to be here to enlighten you on Metallica.
Yeah, until they put out a casket or condoms, they're not going to match Kiss in marketing. I'm sorry.
There's still time. I mean, that would have been a great time at Death Magnetic to put out a coffin. I was
going to say, yeah,
logo was a coffin,
and make it the Cliff Burton edition.
Mm-hmm. No, that's dark. Does it come with a
that's
bus?
me, baby. It's the coffin is engraved with a bus on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then it's no.
Feel free to take these ideas, James Hetfield, if you're watching.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you go on blackandwhiskey.com, you type in the batch number, and then it gives you the playlist that was played for that batch of Blackened.
Really?
Because they
That's
put it in
cool.
the sonic chamber, and they blast the same playlist over and over. And I tested it out with two other people. We had two different batches and did the old switch blind taste test. And we proved that both of them taste different.
Because of the sonic emanations of Metallica doing
Different songs have a different resonation to it.
Obviously, with this, you'd want a playlist with their version of Whiskey in the Jar. I mean, that would be only right. If it doesn't have Whiskey in the Jar, what is the point?
Howard's agreeing, but he's also sick of me talking about Star Trek and Metallica.
Yeah, that's
and whatever else. But I got to see him in Phoenix, and I was very disappointed that James got COVID, so I couldn't see the second night. They postponed it a week. You can go back in time and watch that episode.
I might see now that I didn't even know this existed until you texted me like, you want to be in my podcast? I'm like, yeah. I didn't know you had one, so now I have to subscribe.
Once again,
so now we'll go back and watch.
Hey, that's a cheap plug. Thanks, PK. Yeah, I'm not the only one doing the cheap plugs.
I think I'm one of like 11 Americans left who doesn't have their own podcast. So
yes,
I'll be a professional guest on podcasts. I think that'd be way better. Much less work. All I have to do is sit here and be charming. I don't have to do any editing, nothing. No prep work. Dream gig.
So, Howard, now that you have PK's email, he just float him an invite whenever. And
sure. I'll be anytime you want, man.
Love it. I was going to talk about video games because all three of us have gone through the Halo shuffle. Howard and I spent many an hour bashing our heads against the wall for certain missions along the Halo timeline.
Oh, yeah. Well, Mark, I mean, I'm a huge Halo dork too. And you were one of the original Hellhounds with me and my buddy John, who I was actually just gaming with before I came on the show tonight.
Awesome.
I still have the screenshot he took of you and I standing next to each other when we were doing a lasso run on Exodus on Reach, Halo Reach. Yeah. We were doing a lasso run. And there's a shot of you and I standing together. It was a pretty cool shot.
I miss those days.
Oh man,
or the truck.
Yeah. You're talking about in the package. You can take the truck and jump it over the chasm. Yeah.
Howard would have loved that one because he did, I think, what we did in that instance and was not go over, but drive it off the cliff. Because when he was getting tired, and if you want to share, you go right ahead.
Well, I'm notorious for my patience with video games is nowhere near as long as hitters. So when we would play, we played the original Halo, and we actually, on our legendary run through it, we'd get to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm done. I've had enough. And whenever Kidder and I have played, Kidder always drives the Warthog. I'm always in the gun turret. And for some reason, we finished an area, and I went and I was like, I want to be done. Kidder didn't want to be done. So I hopped in the Warthog, drove it through a checkpoint. So I'm the one in it. He's still on foot, and proceed to drive it right off a cliff. And it's one of those maps that you had to have the Warthog to get around. If you were to walk the whole way, it would take hours. And so I drive it off, would respawn. Kidder would have to kill me and jump off the cliff and hope that he died quick enough. But then when that happened, we'd respawn, and I'd be driving the Warthog again, and I would drive it right off the cliff again.
So which game was it? You say this was Combat Evolved, the first Halo?
Yeah, it was the first one. Yeah. And after maybe about 10, 15 minutes, Kidder's finally like, okay, we can be done.
I think my buddy, you have the same dynamic as I have with my buddy John. He's an outstanding driver of warthogs, and I'm a good gunner. We have much this like we'll bang our heads against the wall, like you guys said, trying to get through a legendary or lasso run. And John has way more patience than I do. Way more, and he's just a much better Halo player, just all around. He's one of those assholes who can pull off a headshot with a sniper rifle, no scope, while running. I've seen him do it multiple times.
Bitch.
He is. He's amazing. He's good at every game. Yeah, yeah. His Xbox Live gamer score is over 300,000. It's ridiculous. Like, I felt really good when I cracked 65,000, and then I look at John's and I'm like, I give up.
Yeah,
I can play guitar and you can't. So there.
Yeah, right.
That's all I got on him.
It does pay off every now and then that I get bored, because on that same run it's the first time you go up in the Covenant ship, and it's been so long I don't remember the name of levels and such, but you go up
through the reconciliation.
Yeah, and you spawn in that room, and you don't get to leave that room until you clear it. And Kidder and I spent 3 hours trying to get out of that room. Just the two of us.
Oh, on Legendary, yeah. That's Truth and Reconciliation on Legendary is the only tougher level on Legendary on that game is the library.
Yeah.
The library is that level was made specifically to punish people.
Yeah. And so we were going in 3 hours of it, and I finally got bored and just happened to run. So here's a fun tip if anybody's trying to do it. I ran past some grunts, like the door opened. I ran past, and it's not in the door you're supposed to go in. And so it only goes so far, and then it's a dead end because it's just a spot for the grunts to spawn.
Point, yeah.
Yeah. And so I ran in there just being stupid because I'm like, I'm so sick of this. And Kidder dies and he respawns, and we realized that it's far enough away that if you're in the far end, you could respawn. And so one of us just camped out there, and the other one would basically do suicide missions and run out, grab a grenade, try and chuck it on the elite and blow up and then respawn. And that's the only way we passed it, was thanks to me goofing off.
Well, I mean, the ultimate test of fitness for a Halo player, of course, is Halo 2 on Legendary. I mean, like, just poking your head around a corner in Halo 2 will get your head blown off. On Legendary, like, that game is so unbalanced. Like, I can do heroic on Halo 2 all day long, and that's my default setting. Legendary, the step up from heroic to Legendary on 2 is ridiculous. It's just, it's, for me, it's borderline unplayable. That's hard.
But I see people when you're driving the tank.
Yeah,
and your tank gets two-shotted. Like, it's a tank. What the crap?
Or say it with me, Jackal snipers.
Asshole snipers.
Yep.
Well, now that I'm having PTSD flashbacks, it was a war that I never fought in life, but I fought it in the digital realm. PK and I, we go way back. 2007, 6.
Yeah, I'd say about 2007. When you got to KJ, when you got to Clear Channel Grand Forks, I mean, you were just a pup.
Yep.
Like, you still had your mother's milk on your breath.
A little bit. I was new.
Yeah, I was not quite the grizzled war horse I am now, but I was approaching that because I was doing 3 shows a day.
Yeah.
And programming and prod and every other goddamn thing.
And then you were getting worse, and then I got there and joined you. And was doing all the web stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody wore 27 hats because, God forbid, Clear Channel pay another person to do a job.
It's true.
Cheap Channel. The evil empire.
Well, now they're a different cluster,
well,
which you can find our show on at iHeartRadio. Please subscribe.
That's for those of you listening at home, that's code for Mark telling me don't say anything more bad about our media.
I don't work for him anymore. It's not my problem. In fact, I left before they officially changed their name.
That's about when I left too. I finally had enough in 2015. That was 22 years, 22 and a half in the biz. And I was like, radio's something you do because you love, not because it pays well. and I was tired of starving to death. So,
Yeah.
but I mean,
So-
there are a lot of experiences I had in radio I wouldn't trade for anything. I got to hang out with the Black Crows and party for a weekend with the Black Crows. Like, I mean, that was I'm assuming I had fun. I'm pretty sure I had a good time.
I love that. That's where I want to go next, because you and I met a few years ago already, and obviously you had a few years before that of doing a variety of things in radio, and
Mm-hmm.
I would love whatever you're willing to share here. Let's take a trip down PK memory lane, and when you were a young radio lad, not
When I was a
knowing
pup jock.
a segue from an outro, and
Yeah, man. So I got into radio really totally by accident. Like, I always wanted to be in radio. When I was a little kid, what I used to do as a little guy is a lot of, like, anybody under the age of 30 listen to this, you probably know what I'm talking about. I had a mini cassette recorder, and I would record songs off the radio, and I would leave space in between the songs so I could talk between them and record myself. Yep. You know who else used to do that? Your buddy Rock and Rick.
ah, yes.
Rock and Confess. We were like, you too? We both used to do that.
We're so old.
I know. And I got into radio. I was still in the military. I was still in the Air Force, and I got stationed at my home base. I got stationed in Grand Forks to finish out my tour. I was at a bar with some friends. We were playing air hockey, and I was commentating the game. Like I was calling the game, like play-by-play, just as a gag. And this guy comes up to me out of the blue, never seen before in my life. He goes, "You have a great voice." And I said, "Thanks." He goes, "Do you ever think about being in radio?" I'm like, "Only every day since I was like 7." So I did a very short stint at the old KZLT when it was still K-Light, and Scott Hennon was in charge. Had a disagreement with Scott Hennon and left. And that day, I walked into the offices of KJ before it was bundled up with XL and 96. And I walked in and said to the receptionist, I'm like, "Is your PD around? Your program director around?" She's like, "Yeah, he's on the air right now, but you can go on back." I mean, that tells you how long ago this was. She's like, "Sure, he's on the air, but go ahead in the studio." And your friend and mine, Brian Lee Rivers, was on the air. And I said, "You looking for any part-time jocks?" And he goes, "Maybe. You got a decent voice." He goes, "You know anything about radio?" And I'm like, I know that I want to do it. He goes, "Well, do you know your rock?" And I said, "Yeah, I feel like I know pretty well." And he said, "Who's a guitarist for Bad Company?" And I said, "Mick Ralphs. We had the same birthday." He's like, "Okay, you start Saturday." This was on like a Tuesday. So I was completely green. I mean, green as grass. I knew nothing. Trained by Bill Tanner and Pat Mars. Pat Mars kind of took me under his wing. He wasn't there quite yet, but Tanner taught me a lot. So we were running a contest. We were giving away Aussie tickets. Would have been for the Osmosis tour. This is the
tickets.
So we were giving away tickets to caller number 108. And one of my very favorite jocks I ever worked with, her name was Lynn Kelly. She said, "Now, when you do this, you don't have to take 108 calls. You can be like, higher caller 1, higher call, just to get through. So you have time to edit the call and air it before the song's over." I'm like, "Okay." So, and this is the middle of the night, and this is an overnight Saturday into Sunday morning. So I'm like, click higher caller 1, click higher caller 5, click higher caller 12, click. And somebody stopped and goes, they said, "I'm caller 12. And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Your mic's on." I left the mic on while I'm skipping callers. So people are calling me bitching and pits. "I see how you run your friggin' contest now. You guys are friggin' cheaters." And I was like, and then I don't know why Brian was listening at 2:00 in the morning or whatever it was. But Brian called me. He's like, "What the are you doing?" He was so mad at me.
Classic,
and that's the only time I ever had a really bad slip up on the air. And we're talking over 22 years. Every format there was to work. I've been on every FM station in Grand Forks, at least for one shift, every single one. all 10. and two of both AMs too. Both AMs. And never once had dropped an F-bomb or an S-bomb or anything. And that was the only time I ever really screwed up bad in the air. Lots of war stories that don't bear repeating.
Right.
Well, I mean, because
Rock and Roll 500.
Oh man, the Rock and Roll 500. So if you've never been in Grand Forks over Memorial Day weekend, I think they still do it. I haven't been in Grand Forks over Memorial Day in forever. But what we used to do was we do a 500 song countdown, 500 greatest rock songs of all time. And Brian, our OM at the time, would put together a ballad for us. He's like, here's 1,000 songs, for everything from the deepest like Grand Funk Railroad cut to Stairway to Heaven or Freebird, you know. And we'd rank them. And I mean, it would take hours to do this. And then God love him, I don't know where he found the time to do this. Brian would compile all that into a countdown. And the first like 3/4 of the countdown was voice tracked. And then the last half, we'd have live jocks in the air, which was a rarity because of voice tracking. But by the time we got to about the top 50, top 25, like that, we'd start, more jocks would start kind of filing in. And usually it was either me or Pat Mars who would quarterback it. Usually I got stuck quarterback in the top 10.
Yep.
So it'd be me running the board on the mic, and usually it was you across from me, and Pat Mars would be in there, and Brian Lee Rivers, and then Blind Dog would be in there. Tanner might stop in. We'd have all of our talent in there at once. Yep. And it was like a 5-headed monster.
And we're all answering the phones. Like,
people are trying. If you could correctly guess the number one song, you got this massive prize package. So people went berserk for this. They just loved it, and because it was over Memorial Day weekend, which is usually my birthday weekend too. Brian would always bring in, and actually, I'm going to talk out of school a little bit. Pat McLean, actually, our GM, used to bring in booze too.
Yes.
So it's statute of limitations is passed on this. Is like 10 years ago now. So we've faced
more than that.
and other substances.
This is Rock and Roll 500. Can't you run away?
Yeah,
this is a great day.
Yeah, and so when I got into radio, like there were jocks just blazing up in the break room, not cigarettes. I'm talking about like firing up a oney or a joint in the break room.
Cigarettes.
Yeah. So that was really common, but much more commonplace, I'm sure, than it is now. The amount of times I saw jocks going to do shifts stoned off their ass was, in fact, the weekend that I got to spend with the Black Crows, that was at Conclave. Either one of you guys ever been to or heard of Conclave?
I never got a chance to go.
Conclave is it used to be anyway. I don't know if it still is. So Brian and I went to Conclave, and he had just made me music director. And he said, PK, we're going to go to Conclave. I'm like, cool. And he said, I'll drive, you buy the weed. And I was so green. I'm like, I don't know where to buy weed. And he's like, our night jock deals. So I went to the studio when our night jock was on. A great guy named Russ Lawrence. I loved Russ to death. And again, I'm so green. I'm like, hey, Russ, how much for a dime bag? And he's like, $10, Paul. That's why it's called a dime bag. So I buy that. I buy the one hitter, and we jump into Brian's Dodge Shadow, his 1990 or like 88 Dodge Shadow, and we drove to Minneapolis, and we blazed up the entire way. Like we weren't even at a city limits yet, and Brian's like, "What are you waiting for?" And I'm like, "Nothing." So like back in the one and stuff. We stayed at the Minneapolis Marriott, which is not like upscale, but it's a nice hotel. And we walk in, and like we got out of Brian's car. It was like Cheech and Chong. We opened the doors and smoke billows out and shit. And I'm wearing a Zeppelin shirt and shredded jeans and combat boots. Brian's wearing a Black Crow shirt and jams and flip flops. And we come staggering into this hotel, and the concierge he just looks at it and he goes, radio? We're like, yeah. He goes, what station?
How'd you know?
KJ Grand Forks. He goes, you're on the 20th whatever floor, I think 26th floor. And so we get in the elevator, and it stops and the doors open, and this guy gets on. I thought a bum got into the, like, not that we weren't, we're dressed to the nines, but this guy, like, he had like scraggly, greasy hair and a scraggly beard, and his clothes were dirty, and he smelled bad. And Brian and I looked at each other, and it was silent the whole way up. And he stopped on 24, and he turns around and he goes, "You guys getting off here?" And we're like, "No, we're one more up." And we realized that was Chris Robinson from the Black Crowes. We're like, "Oh, we thought you were a bum," and we ended up so we're going to our hotel room, and there's a guy standing by our door, and he waves, "Hey, Brian." And Brian's like, "Hey, Dick, how are you?" And again, to tell you how long ago this was, this was Dick Merkel. He was our rep for A&M Records, which no longer even exists. There is no more A&M Records. But he had a duffel bag with him. And he's like, "I just want to play you guys a couple of songs. We'll hang out for a little bit." Paul Bryan tells me you've got a really good ear. I'm like, "Yeah, I'd like to think so." So we go into the hotel room, and he pulls out a stack of CDs out of this duffel bag, and then like a couple of bricks wrapped in tinfoil. And again, I had no idea what this was, because again, green as a blade of grass. And he unwraps it, and it looks like lawn clippings and sod. Like, I look over at Brian, I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" And Brian goes, "Oh, that's hash." It's like, "Oh, I've never had that before." So we got just stoned to the bejesus. I mean, just absolutely destroyed. And so Dick left, and we're sitting there watching TV. Now, they had a closed circuit channel in the hotel. It was Conclave TV, and it was just ads for jingle singers and liner voice guys and all kinds of, and they also had video air checks from different jocks from all over the country. And they had one from Bob and Tom that, of course, guys know Bob and Tom, their thing is like made up songs. And they had one of the Detroit Pistons on the air with them. So they made up this song about the Detroit Pistons. It was like, how'd it go? I can't believe I can remember because I laughed so hard. It was like, "The Detroit Pistons, former champs of basketball. I have so many souvenirs, it's hard to count them all. I have Piston cups. I have Piston pants. I have Piston beer mugs." Sometimes people don't even know that kind of, all these Piston jokes. In my extremely inebriated and stoned state, I thought this is the funniest thing I'd ever heard. And I'm laughing, and I'm like squeak laughing because I'm laughing so hard. I roll off of the bed, and I hit the end table between the beds, like right on the corner, right on my hairline. And I split my head open. I'm bleeding all over the place. Brian's laughing at me, like blood spurting out of my head. I'm laughing at Brian, laughing at me. I've got blood all over my shirt. Yeah, it wasn't like quite that bad, but there was a lot of blood. And Brian goes, "Holy 20-6. We have to be at Murray's Steakhouse at 6:00, which is a pretty upscale place, for dinner with Bill McGathy." Do you guys know who Bill McGathy was? At the time, he was the biggest independent promoter in the country. He looked just like Jerry Garcia. He handled the Black Crowes. I think he might have handled Wilco too. Those are kind of his two biggies. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I'm sure if this is on YouTube, somebody's gonna be like, "No, he didn't," but he's gonna comment on it. But I think he might have. I know for sure.
Roll your comments down below, please, and make sure you smash that thumbs up and the sub button
and the bell.
Thanks.
Yeah, hit the notification button. Anyway, so we get to Murray's Steakhouse, and we're still pretty wrecked. I still have fresh blood on my shirt. And we walk in, and the maitre d's like, "Radio?" We're like, "Yes, we are." Your table's in the back, and you see this long table full of scuzzy, long-haired stone jocks, and Bill McGathy sitting at the head, and the only two chairs left are right next to Bill. So we're like, cool. And Brian knew who he was, and I think he might have met him before. I never had. But he knew who Brian was right away, and he's like, "Is this your MD?" And he said, "Yeah, this is Paul Kelly, my music director." And he goes, "Order whatever you want, guys. Dinner's on me, whatever you like." So we sit down, and Brian orders not one, but two lobster tails. And I order like a 24-ounce butterfly filet cut filet mignon. It's like this massive, like half a cow. And we just inhale our food, and And Bill's like, you guys are going to see, I can't remember what park the Black Crowes were playing their show in. It might have been Loring. I'm not sure. I can't remember. This is 30 years ago. Because you guys are going to the Black Crowes after dinner, right? I'm like, well, yeah, of course, we're going to the Black Crowes. And he says, well, here, let me give you a couple of backstage passes. So he gives, and we're like, cool. So we finish eating, and we get to the park where the Crowes are playing, and I'm like, and we're just sort of knifing our way through the crowd, and we get up on stage, and we're like right off stage right, watching the Black Crowes. And they finish, they come out for their encore, and they play Happy by the Stones, which one of my favorites, and sung by the Stones. When the Stones do it, Keith Richards sings it. So when the Crowes did it, Rich Robinson sang it instead of Chris. And he was playing a gorgeous guitar. It was a Les Paul, and I was like, God, that's got to be a vintage guitar. That's so cool. And then Bill comes up behind me and Brian, who puts his hands on our shoulders, and he's like, "You guys are coming to the after party, right?" And we're like, "Well, yeah, of course, of course we are." I mean, it's still at this point, we couldn't, even neither one of us could have found our ass with both hands in a 10-man search party. But he's like, here's some passes for the after party. And we're like, oh, awesome. He goes, it's at Toby's Tavern. It's right up the block. You can't miss it. It's like 2 blocks away. I'm like, all right. So the Crowes finished. They played an amazing show. They were so good. And so, Mark, you remember Brian's walk. Brian's only about 5'9" or so. But he has this walk where it's like there's like a lot of arm swing. He takes these really long strides. He's really steaming, man. He's really trucking. So we're trying to find Toby's Tavern, and we're walking. And I've got pretty long legs. I'm fairly tall, much taller than Brian. So he's really chugging to keep up with me. And I happen to catch out of the corner of my eye, there's 2 girls walking behind us, and one's really close to Brian and mimicking his walk, which again I thought was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. I turn on like, and I turn and I walk smack into a street lamp post and open my head. I'm bleeding out of my forehead again.
I'm leaky today.
It was so we finally get to Toby's Tavern. We finally find it. Took us a half an hour to go 2 blocks because we were lost. So we go upstairs. The whole top floor was just for the after party. And I sit down, and I'm talking to this older guy, and I don't realize who he is. I have a deep voice, but this guy's voice is like half an octave deeper than mine. Unbelievable pipes. And he gets up and he's like, "Oh, nice meeting you, man." "Yeah, you too." And he gets up and walks away, and Brian comes up and he goes, "Do you know who that was?" And I said, "No." He goes, "That's Tom Bernard." And if you ever lived in Minneapolis through the 70s, 80s, or 90s, you know who Tom Bernard was. He was the morning man at KQRS for like a trillion years. They call him the $1 million man because he used to make $1 million a year just in voiceover stuff, not his contract from KQRS. That's how the guy's a legend. And I'm just like casually chatting with him, like some fucking dumbass hick that I was and still am. But like the party was like nothing I'd ever seen before. Like there was a couple having sex over here, and there's people doing lines of coke over here, and it was just like Sodom and Gomorrah. And I'm sitting there going, "I'm from North Dakota." I'd never seen anything like it in my entire life. And then the Black Crow showed up, and that was the coolest thing ever. And I got to ask Rich about that guitar. He's like, "Yeah, it's a 59 Les Paul." I was like, "Oh God." And the night continued after that too.
Speaking of foamy mouthfeel.
Yeah, we didn't go to any strip clubs, which is normally what a lot of record reps, because there are record reps all over the place at this thing. If you don't know what Conclave is, I didn't really clarify for non-radio folks out there. Conclave is a radio conference. It's mostly for jocks and programmers, because not all jocks also program. Some radio stations are big and powerful and have somebody who just programs. That's all they do. They pick out the songs. So it's all these conferences during the day, and there's record slime wandering around saying, "Here, listen to this song. Here, you put this on. Here, listen to this. You should add this." That's how they make their money. but a lot of time, like half of it is just conferences or like, how do we get our weekend numbers up? And like there's like 100 jocks in there, programmers, and everybody's hungover and tired and miserable and just can't wait to go back to the hotel room and sleep for a couple hours, because as soon as you step out of your hotel room, there'll be somebody from Atlantic Records or somebody from A&M or whatever, Virgin Record, whatever, to take you out and get you shit-faced and take you to a strip bar and, that kind of stuff. So it's basically an excuse to party for 3 days and maybe go to a seminar or two. Conclave that's probably the wildest radio story I have. And people always ask me, you were in radio, you must have met a lot of people. I'm like, yeah, I did. My highlight for meeting a celebrity, though, Ace Frehley. I got to meet Ace Frehley, who's why I have a guitar in my hands today. So
yeah, I was going to say he's one of your musical heroes.
My holy triumvirate of bands is like Zeppelin, Kiss, and Rush. So, and Kiss was the first band I ever obsessed over as a little guy. And Ace Frehley here's how big a Kiss fan I was and still am. When I was little, I used to make my mom set an extra place at the dinner table just in case Ace Frehley might show up for dinner. And God love her, she did it. No questions asked. She's like, well, he might. Here's a plate for Ace.
I love it.
I've talked a lot, so
that's good. This is because normally it's us yammering away, and
well, I haven't been in a mic in a long time, so this is like Candyland for me.
I keep trying to leave, but they keep pulling me back in.
Well, my job now, they like all the upper management knows that I used to be in radio. So they're like, so Paul, would you mind, like, do you still have like a microphone and headphones and stuff? I'm like, yeah, I do. And they're like, what if you like once a month voiced over our departmental update video or like some training videos? I'm like, well, I charge $500 a page. They're like, no, you're going to do it for free. Okay, fine, whatever.
If I have to.
Yeah. So that's once a month I get to sit down with a microphone and I get to write my own copy, which is nice. So, and it's just a way to get behind the mic again because I miss it. I miss being behind the mic. I don't miss the other that goes along with being in radio. I think I was telling you guys before we started, like if my wife and I go back up to Grand Forks every once in a while, there's still people who recognize me. I haven't been on the air there in 9 years, 10 years. And people will come up to us and she'll be like, who's that? And I'm like, I don't know. Because they'll come up to me like, hey, Paul, hey, PK, what's up, man? Hey, man. I have no idea who you are. And they act like we've been friends for years. And it's flattering, but it's also embarrassing because you guys both know, if you do a bunch of remotes, you meet tons and tons and tons of people, and it's impossible to remember everybody. It's physically, unless you have an eidetic memory, you're never going to remember everybody you meet, unless they somehow stand out in some amazing way. So
we had that a lot down here because after I moved from Grand Forks to Bismarck and then shot the radio station to #1 per capita in the country for 2 years for my time slot for my genre, active rock. Thank you very much.
Well done,
kicking ass, taking names.
Good for you. That's well done. Good for you.
Oh. It was very surprising, to be honest with you, because
I'm not surprised a bit.
I didn't think the ratings could go that high. Apparently they do. And then they're like, did you know that you beat every other radio station of active rock in the country? And I'm like, no. But we had a lot of bands coming through at the time, and I got to meet a lot of them, got to know them. They'd come back a few times. I get to hang out with them. And Howard would usually, if he was available, be my +1. And, we didn't need tickets. We just got in. We had our credentials, right? So I made him credentials because he is Howard Blues. And he'd come along and we would have a good time at the old rock show. He'd take pictures and I would schmooze with people, schmooze with the bands, get a beer, ask him if he wanted something. And it was usually like, eh. But then people, hey, Kidder, what's going on, dude? I'm like, hey,
Hey,
classic,
random,
right? Hey, man, how's it going? And they'd be like, oh,
I love you,
who's
random
this?
citizen.
And I'm like, well, that's Howard Blues. And they'd be like, when are you on? And he's like, I'm working on it.
One of my favorites is like if I was doing a remote somewhere, especially if I was like a two-headed remote, like if I was with you or Trevor or D or Rick or whoever, somebody come up to me and go, which one are you? Like we're the Beatles or something.
Yeah.
But like, and you can ask Rick, and I would be like, I'm rocking Rick. Is your daughter 18? Just
and then you get your name tag, right?
Oh yeah, we're wearing a giant name tag on a lanyard. It's got my name, it's got my title, and which one are you? I'm rocking Rick.
He was usually Silent Howard.
Yeah.
Half the time, the place was so loud because there's a band playing or there's a bunch of people, and Howard with sound and hearing things, it doesn't always come through, and so people are like, oh, and he's like, and they're like, who is this guy? And I'm like, oh, it's Howard. When's he on? Well, you don't know when Howard's on? What do you mean you don't know when Howard's on? Like, he's got a name tag, like just completely just smoking him. But one of the best ones was,
I was going to say, Kidder, there's a technical answer to when I was on, and it was before you.
Oh, yes.
Because I was in his opener for a bit. We had for a little bit, the open to his show had a ring announcer doing the ladies and gentlemen now making his way to the ring, Killer Mark Kidder. And it was me. So there, I was technically on the radio slightly before Kidder.
Oh, kind of like a Michael Buffer thing. I get it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's a good gig. Like guys that do that professionally, voiceover artists, those guys make bank.
I had
I made
excessive, over the top, very convoluted.
Mark didn't pay you for that? Kidder, you prick. You didn't
he got a beer.
Run off
He got an Avalanche jersey out of it. I mean,
an Avalanche, suitable for framing or wiping your ass, an Avalanche jersey.
Ooh, and it's the last time Paul Kelly's on this show.
You know I'm a lifelong Blackhawks fan. Everybody knows that.
Yes. I know. We are a supporter of the Hawks, i.e. the Sioux.
Mm-hmm.
The Sioux of the professional league. Yeah, he would say that. I had him in that intro. And I had two of them. They're very over the top, lots of sound effects, different clips from different shows. One of which being I incorporated Star Trek clips and Star Trek sound effects into all of them. So there's like a phaser blast and
impressive. Most impressive.
First contact line in one of them. And then Olmec from Legends of the Hidden Temple saying, let's rock. And then James Hetfield going, yeah! So, I mean, it was all in there. Everything Kidder was in there within 30 seconds.
That's kind of like my first night show I did on XL93 when Rock and Rick wanted me to be the Hawk. And I called it the Freak Show. And he said, whatever, carte blanche, whatever you want to do is fine. I need you to be my flamethrower. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, I'm sure. I'm like, I don't relate well to a top 40 audience. I'm a rock guy. He's like, I know. That's what I want. It's like, all right. So I used an old a song by the rapper Houdini, WHODINI, Houdini, called The Freaks Come Out at Night. And I used that as my bed. And I had the raciest liners. There was one. It was an African American woman saying, "Somebody getting a salad tossed tonight." The Freak Show with the Hawk on XL93, and like no one ever called and about it. No, because I don't think they knew what it meant. But like all kinds of stuff like that. And my significant other at the time, she's like, "How can you get away with that stuff?" And I'm like, "People don't call I'm gonna do it until someone tells me not to." It was there was I can't remember the name of the bar. There was a bar in Grand Forks. They did a speed dating thing, and we covered it for XL. And it was an all hands. So it was me and Rick and Trevor and Binky Lee was there, and Mel McCarthy, and that whole crew at that time, which was kind of if you think about it, at that time, that was for top 40. That was like a murderer's row. That's a shit ton of talent.
Yep. And
everybody had Trevor doesn't have a huge personality. Trevor's like sneaky funny. He's the only person who doesn't have a huge, gigantic personality.
He's Canadian.
It is. But Trevor's also one of the funniest dudes I know. He's like low key funny. But like you've got Rick, who's a loudmouth. I'm a loudmouth. Mel is 3 loudmouths.
Oh, Mel.
Yeah, we used to joke on the air. Like, I'll get to that in a minute. This is a funny story. So, Binky's like, I want to get some cool pictures for the website. I just learned how to breathe fire. I said, I can breathe fire. And Binky goes, all right, well, I want to video this. So I said some preamble about Rick wanting me to be his fire breather, which in radio terms, a fire breather is somebody who gets on and is loud and obnoxious and pushes the envelope and that kind of thing. So I made all these jokes about Rick wanting me to be his fire breather at night. I grabbed a shot of 151 and I said, I can do that for you, Rick. And I took a mouthful and lit up an entire book of matches and blew a massive fireball. And Binky caught it on film. And we put it on the website. And I said, the Freak Show with the Hawk on XL93. And like 2 days later, Grand Forks Fire Department made us take it down because they said it was a fire hazard. They said, no, people are going to try it. And you can't do that in a building. I'm like, are you kidding me? It was the coolest thing that's ever been on XL's website. Their night jock literally breathing fire. And then we had to take it down. I was really pissed.
I don't think I was invited to that one because nobody liked the Edge on XL93. So
yeah,
and I only filled in.
You were ahead of your time, though. You were ahead of your time. That was it. I did listen to that show, and I thought it was a good show. I thought she did a good job. I think she did a really good job on that show. That was like you in your element for that time. I mean, you at that's 20 years, 15 years ago. So you weren't as polished, but you could tell. I mean, like I could tell my ear listening to your show. There's something there. That guy's going to have a career. He's going to be a good jock. And again, I was right, and I'm getting sick of being right all the time.
Yeah, gotta go left every once in a while.
So I mentioned Melody McCarthy. Mel is one of my favorite people ever in the whole world. Mel's a fun bunch of gals. She really is. She would like get completely based and then come in and voice track her shift and be just hammered. And it would go on air because she'd do it like overnights or early mornings on a weekend when no one's listening. Somewhere someone recorded her recording a shift trashed, and it's radio gold. And for about 2 weeks, I had to cover because remember when Trevor had an aneurysm? Would have been 2013 into 14 or
so that was already after I left.
Yeah, but Trevor had an aneurysm. He's my age. We're both born in 72, so at that time he would have been like 41 or 42. He had an aneurysm. And Rick's like, I'm stuck. I got no morning show host. So he's like, Paul, can you do mornings on XL? I'm like, and at this time, I'm pretty deeply embedded as the midday jock on KJ. Had been doing it for a long time. And I was like, yes, I'll give it a shot. And
sure.
Binky, Trevor's actual co-host, Binky, and I did not get along very well. Which actually made for pretty funny radio because we didn't like each other, but it made the tension made for good radio. Binky was out for like a week, and he had Mel come in, and Mel and I played off each other great because at that time we were both party animals. We joked on the air on XL's morning show, on a top 40 morning show, which was pretty squeaky clean for the most part. I'd be like, Mel leads me in total arrests, but I lead her in jail time. And Rick would be like, no, don't. We have soccer moms listening. I'm like, that's the point, Rick.
They like handcuffs too.
They do. That's right. Yeah, we had and that whole.
It's like what? Yeah.
That was probably the most fun I've ever had doing live radio. Was doing a week of mornings with Mel. Because we were perfectly suited. We had great timing together, great chemistry, and she was so funny. And like we brought out the absolute worst, the best worst in each other we could possibly bring out for that week. That morning show sizzled. Best radio ever done live. Sadly, not even on my home station, not even on KJ, where I was for a million years.
Do you remember when Mars went on vacation to France for a month?
Yeah. That's when you took over and did the morning show with Tanner.
Yes. So Tanner and I did the morning show.
Mm-hmm.
And before Mars left, I'm like, Tanner and I talked, wouldn't it be funny if we came up with like a temp show name, we kicked Mars out, and it's our show now? Oh, yeah, it's hilarious. Mars even got the voice guy, Malcolm Riker.
Yeah.
I think.
There's a name I haven't said out loud in about 15 years. Malcolm Riker.
I think that was his name.
It was Malcolm.
He sent him lines for the show, and then I put together the sweepers for the show.
Yep.
BM in the morning.
Yep.
It's like it's not a bowel movement. It's like a booty mama and stuff like this. I still have them somewhere. But
Brian, I don't know if he ever told us. Brian didn't like that.
Of course he did.
Our OM didn't like it, and I'm like, they're having a blast, and it makes for great radio, Brian. It's funny. It's not Tanner and Mars. It's something different. And he's like, BM in the morning is stupid. And there's those liners are if it's too high a burn factor. Mark's using them too much. I'm like, oh, he's only on for a month. Let him have his fun.
Right?
He's 25 years old, getting to do a morning show with a 50-year-old. Let him have fun. It was fun. It was a good show.
Every once in a while, Tanner and I'll talk through like Facebook or Messenger or comments on each other's posts. Number one, throwing out MVP gifts of Montel Vontavious Porter as he's balling, but also he's like, yeah. They took us off the air because they couldn't handle having number one at the top. They were scared. That's all they are. They're scared, waiting for the next game of snapper to take them out. Just Tanner and I had some fun with that too. So when you're talking about morning show gold, I think we had some fun. And then
for sure,
Phil Parker. You may remember Phil Parker from K-Fire in Bismarck.
I know the name.
He was on forever. I got to co-host the morning show on K-Fire with him for better part of a year. And he and I, kind of like you and I riffing off of each other.
Yeah.
Same thing. We came up with, he was the genius behind it, but helped come up with the skits. We interviewed a bunch of people like Hot Lips Houlihan from MASH. That was a weird interview. Retired sheriff
Loretta Swit, the actual Hot Lips, Loretta Swit.
Yes.
You interviewed Loretta Swit?
I did.
That's cool.
Phil and I did, yes.
Good for you, man. That's really cool.
And one of the other ones that we lined up was retired Sheriff John Bennell of World's Wildest Police Pursuit Videos. So Phil and I are like, we're going to create our own 24-hour network of police chases. We're going to play them 24 hours a day. That's all it is. And then when one's live, we're cutting in live. We're taking that so live.
All right. So what's the best interview you ever had on the air so far in your career? Like you're like 10 years younger than I am. So you got to be pushing 40 at this point, aren't you?
Easy. No. Yeah, I mean, yeah, basically. Howard's older than me, though.
Own your age. So, I'm 51. I'm 51 and a half.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
Yes,
you are not. You shut your whore mouth. You are not.
I'll own every dude. I've got 2 grandkids.
No, time is fleeting. I got to interview Jason Newsted on my birthday with Mike Mushak.
God, you must have jizzed in your pants at like just a long continuous orgasm.
Little bit. I interviewed Paul Tuttle Sr. from Orange County Choppers.
That's cool.
Paulie Sr. Yeah. We're talking about this. I had almost an hour conversation with Jeff Dunham before he hilarious. And he only had to be on the call for like 10 minutes, but he kept talking and we're talking. I'm like, if you gotta go, he's like, no, this is the most fun I've had in weeks. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. The interview's going well if they're like, okay, I won't keep any longer. No, let's keep going. Yep. I've had that twice. First time, was with Paul Dean from Loverboy. And anyone who says Loverboy is a band, I'll fight you, because Loverboy was awesome. They
I'm
never
waiting for
got
Howard to say it. I want to see this.
What? Do you not like Loverboy, Howard?
No, he's just.
Do we need to
he's
try
just
to
mad
and beat
attention.
your ass?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I want to
So,
see it.
like,
Just
everyone always-
fisticuffs.
Everyone makes fun of Loverboy because of Mike Reno, and he's got that high squeaky voice and stuff. Paul Dean is a great guitar player, and he was a fantastic interview. The best interview, and it shocks everybody because they know I hate this band. The best live on-air interview I ever had was a phone interview with Dennis DeYoung from Styx. I don't like Styx's music. I think Tommy Shaw is a great guitar player. I've met Styx twice, and Dennis DeYoung was fun. He was upbeat. He was affable. He was very self-effacing and very very interested in me as the interviewer, which I'd never had before. Because usually, if you're interviewing somebody, you keep turning the conversation to them, and he kept turning it back to me. And like one of the things I asked him was, like, what's you guys have been doing this since '74. What's after all this time? This is like '95 or '6. I said, what's your favorite song still to play live? And he goes, probably Come Sail Away. And I'm like, okay, that tracks. And he goes, what's your favorite Styx song, Paul? And I didn't have the heart to say, I hate your band. But I said, Light Up. And I light up everybody. I think it's a great tune. And he's like, oh, Paul, you old stoner. And I'm like, you couldn't say that on the air in 1995 or 6, which was funny. So, but that made the interview. But no interview I'd had ever turned it back on me and said, "What do you think?" It was always me. What's really funny about that, speaking of Pat Mars, is he and I hosted the party bus. They played at the Fargo Barn. Mars and I hosted the party bus down there, which that's like putting Pat Mars and I in charge of a party bus is like putting a rat in charge of a cheese shortage. It's like, whose idea was this? But we got there and we didn't do a meet and greet. Kansas opened. Who were great, by the way. Kansas did a really nice job. Mars doesn't like Styx either. So we're watching the show and they were about to go into Come Sail Away. In the middle of the show. They didn't even close with us, middle of the show. And Tommy Shaw gets on the mic and he's saying something about like, if 5 guys from Chicago can do this and make their dreams come true, you can too. And Mars and I looked at each other and like, we just started busting out laughing. The best part, though, is that we fell asleep during the show. And not just like nodded off, like we fell asleep leaning on each other's shoulders like this. The house light, we didn't wake up until the house lights came on. We probably slept for like a half an hour, stone out cold, sleeping during Styx. That was yeah. Literally, the lights came in and we're like, is the bus ready? Do we need to get? Yeah, that was a fun night too. But yeah, Dennis DeYoung is probably, I would say he's my favorite interview I've ever done. He was just very engaging, which is pretty rare. The worst, Pat Monahan from Train. Pat Monahan was a dick. If he's listening, you probably don't remember it, and I don't blame you. Talking to some podunk radio station in North Dakota, some disc jockey you've never heard of, I get it. But he was a tough interview. I couldn't get anything out of him.
So quick pause for vocal lubrication. Howard, for the record, I'm throwing some blackened in my glass because I'm thirsty, and we need a little blackened. Yeah, on the show.
I'm gonna go get a refreshment myself. I'll be be back in a moment.
EK joining us.
Oh, thank you, man. I still have a swig of whatever's left in this mug, so I appreciate you, Mark. Yeah, probably.
Howard, you got something? You're brisk.
No, actually, I have another brew here. You say that like I don't usually have 2 beers on the show, but
like 40%.
You gotta have something so we can do everybody's second favorite segment of the show. What's on tap? Round 2, drink. And I'm hoping it's better than this. This was terrible. I wish I could have got more in talking so I had less excuse or better excuse to not drink this. I might feel the same about this, Kidder, because I'm going to the Hop Valley Brewing Company for their Bubble Stash IPA. A drink that you would probably hate. what do we got here? For a description, our stash of Mosaic Cryo hops bring a blend of fruity, tropical flavors and a touch of resin to this new age IPA. Folks, you shouldn't drink resin. Anyway, you won't want to pass this one. I might. We'll see. It is 6.2% alcohol by volume, 45 IBUs. Cryo hops is a registered trademark of Yamaka Chief Hops, Inc., used with permission. Make sure we get all the legalese out as we go. Yep, very hoppy. Very hoppy. Huh. That's actually surprisingly really good. Not too hoppy for an IPA, kidder. Not too bitter at all, and kind of a nice, smooth, very fruity. To use the words and the theming of this episode, it's got a good mouthfeel. There, I slightly made Kidder laugh.
Hey, man, you know what? You feel up your mouth how you need to, okay? If that drink does it for you, then great.
It's really not bad. I would actually give this like 3.8, maybe even a 4. That's pretty good. Surprisingly good. Better than this. Kate, get her some news that I want to throw out to the old
Is it
universe. Breaking because it happened today. I like to follow the World Juniors Hockey Tournament.
Ah, yes.
And we had the finals today. The bronze medal game saw Czech beat Finland 8-5.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's a tough one. But more importantly, Kidder, the gold medal game, the United States versus Sweden.
Ooh.
With a final score of 6-2. Your gold medal team for 20. I don't know if they do it by 2023 or 2024, but 2023, 2024. The United States of America. We brought home the gold, buddy.
USA, 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 USA.
Yeah. So
love it.
Congratulations to the World Juniors team bringing home the gold. Also, I did see our Fighting Sioux came out victorious tonight over Alaska. Can't remember if the score. I think the score was 4-2 or 6-2. But that was a while ago, and I've been drinking. So
I think it was 6-4, and it might have been against the Air Force.
Hey, you know what? I may have gotten nothing right in that story.
Howard doesn't know what universe he's in. No, it was Alaska. Okay. All right.
Good. I don't feel so bad about getting that wrong. I was like, man, I was way off on this.
This is a non-conference game, but even though I got all the updates, the score isn't actually in the app. So, and last night, Avs pick up a victory over the Stars in overtime, 6-5.
And to no one's surprise, the Blackhawks lost to the Rangers, like 11 to -2, because the Blackhawks are horrible, except for Connor Bedard.
Eddie Belfour is getting ready to dust off the pads again and come back.
He'd be doing better than Peter Mrazek. So,
hey, by the way, PK, quick. Eddie the Eagle talk. Did you know?
I did not know that. Is that his booze?
So, this is his blend of whiskey, and this specific blend is the special edition straight rye whiskey. You notice that it's green and white for a certain reason, and that would be
because he went
the Fighting Sioux edition.
Goddamn right.
With the Fighting Sioux Ralph Engelstad Arena coin in the top, hockey puck style cork on it. It's the Spirit of Champions. It's very delicious, as you can see, because it's empty. He also has a bunch of others, but the regular rye is also good, and it's reasonably priced. So this again,
I may have to pick up a bottle of that.
Cheers to you. You should. I hope you do.
Schlanja, boys.
I was going to say, talking about interviews, And of course, you're somewhat of a fan of Filter, right?
Not a huge fan. I think if you asked me to name 3 Filter songs, I could probably name one.
Sure.
But it's no, I can name 2.
Okay.
Hey Man, Nice Shot, and then the
Yep.
one about being drunk in an airplane.
Yeah. High on LSD on an airplane.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Take a picture.
Take a picture. Thank
So,
you. Yeah.
Welcome to the Fold is a great one. No Love's a great one. There's a lot of great songs. I got introduced to them because Filter visited Bismarck 3 times in my tenure on the air here. And 2 of those times, I got to hang out with Richard Patrick for over half of the day.
Nice. That's cool.
Gave me his phone number. Text me if you're coming to LA. All of that. And we literally did my entire show as a Richard Patrick picks the music and interviewing about the deep controversies of all of the songs and behind the music and learning about the process and all of that. So I wish I had recorded that.
No kidding. Yeah. The only time I ever had that.
Awesome.
The only time I ever had that was having someone, a rock star, in the studio with me, picking the music. This was the toughest hour of my radio life. Was Ted Nugent.
The Nuge.
That was really difficult because all he wanted to talk about was politics, and like I kept having to steer him back and like, that's great. I'm glad you love guns and think everyone, we should kill every hoofed mammal in North America. Cool. Let's talk about rock and roll.
Sure.
Because he was playing with, believe it or not, Styx that night at the Ralph.
I was very fortunate with our situation up here because Howard, I don't know, we went to 100 concerts in like 2 years. It was obscene. We were at a ton of shows. One of them at the Korn, Rob Zombie, and I forget who opened for him now. Howard probably remembers. But I got to open and pump the crowd up before Korn came out.
Oh, that must have been fun.
So there's a sold out event center. They legitimately sold out. The place was packed to the rafters. And one of my Facebook profile photos is me up there going, yeah, screaming. And Howard, being the photographer, master photog, snapping that. We made our way back into the crowd, and a guy, much like we've talked about, hey, Kidder, what's up? Like, hey, dude, what's going on? I'm like, can I get your autograph? And I'm like, okay.
Oh,
and
isn't that weird?
And he had a silver Sharpie, which I'm like, why do you have a silver Sharpie? I mean, oddly enough, I do have one right here, but it's like, why? And he's like, can you sign my jacket? And I'm like, are you sure?
Really?
Yeah. This is going to be great. Like, and just sign my jacket.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a photo of me that, again, Howard took of me signing this dude's jacket like this big.
Yeah.
Letting her roll.
That's so weird. Like, I started in radio in 94. And at that point, it was such a different ball game. Like, local disc jockeys were still celebrities. And the first time I was married at the time to a different person, and we'd be out like at the Ground Round or something in Grand Forks or Perkins or whatever, and somebody would come up and ask for my autograph, and it was so weird for me because I was an autograph seeker myself. If I got to meet whatever band, and I thought, I'm some random freaking disc jockey from Grand Forks. Why would you want my auto? Okay, here you go. And I signed clothes. I signed book bags. I signed body parts. I mean, that was cool then. It was cool to be a DJ. Oh yes, yeah. I
did too. I had one of those photos on my profile page for the longest time. Right about to hear.
It was surreal and flattering, and it sounds like it's
Howard's like, why am I on this show with you? I can see the wheels turning when I said that.
For people listening and watching, it probably sounds really douchey, like it's so weird getting asked for your autograph. But the thing that people forget, and I forget this too, because I'm a fan of like Like when I met Ace Frehley, I freaked out. I just was like over the moon excited. Same thing. I'm trying to think of all the meeting Ozzy was huge. Stuff like that. Like these are icons to me. And so we get it too. But if you've never had somebody come up and go, "Can I have your autograph?" It's really weird because you kind of get that imposter syndrome a little bit. Because that you're just some later tonight I'll be sitting in my underwear scratching my balls playing Halo. But in a listener's head, I would be like going home and doing a line of coke and playing guitar or whatever. You're doing something really cool, and not sitting there,
hanging out in the rafters of the radio station.
Right? Yeah. Like when I, at the height of my career, the worst thing could have happened to me would be for somebody to catch me drinking a glass of milk, because it would have been like, it would completely ruined whatever they thought about, me as, the image of being the long-haired rebel rock and roller DJ.
Yeah.
And I love Star Trek and I like literature. I collect comics. You can see the shelf behind me here is just loaded with nerd stuff. And like people are like, "You're a huge nerd." I'm like, "I'm a humongous nerd." That's weird, but that's why you don't want my autograph, because I'm nobody.
Yeah, it was fun either way. And the photos, I'd usually give them in the photos because of why not, right? And that's hilarious. This is Kidder, you're the funniest guy ever. Like, thanks. It's in my name. I'm hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm a funny guy. What can I say?
You might be the only guy I know who's actually named after the county he's from.
I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm not even from there.
Howard's gonna edit that out.
No, it's in there. He'll probably even put like blinking graphics on the screen or some kind of extra. So now would be the time to throw out a bunch of F-bombs.
I just realized that I have said the F word multiple times during this broadcast, so I apologize.
It's okay. It's your first time. So usually when somebody does drop the F-bomb on here, usually it's followed by "Sorry, future Howard," because they know I have to edit it and catch it. And in the future, I'm going to be sitting there going, "Oh, God, there's another one." Okay.
Now I just want to let loose with like a massive string of cuss words. It's just like the most embarrassingly long string of cuss words ever.
Yeah, we've done it. So
just to make Howard's job difficult.
You can give it a shot. Yeah, he'll just bleep the whole thing.
I know, yeah.
The mouth's just moving and this it's like we're off the air, which nobody would know the difference anyway.
Yeah. That I've had to do. I got a couple like that.
Saving Abel. You're familiar with Saving Abel?
Oh yeah, you bet.
They came through a couple times, and Scott Bartlett, main founder of the band, hung out with me in the studio. We did kind of the same thing, picking the music, doing the interview in between. And he said, and I always thought this was kind of the coolest thing, because it's just like you being asked, like, well, what's your favorite song? Turn it around and said, this is one of the most real interviews that I have ever had since I started this band. And he's like, I want to let you know that I appreciate you and being able to sit down and talk, and we're just having a conversation. It's not just, well, what's the music, and you're here and let's get an autograph and a picture and then be on with the day and we'll see you at the concert. It's actually like hanging out. And I'm like, yeah, man, like you take the time to come here and hang out. Whatever I could do to have
that's
fun
exactly
with you.
So many jocks that interviewers, whether they're podcasters or disc jockeys or whoever, forget that they're not the star of the show and that they're interviewing a person.
Mm-hmm.
So just talk. Don't have your list of questions and never stray from it, no matter what. Just have a conversation with them. If you're not a good conversationalist, and this is going to sound really arrogant, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you're not a good conversationalist, stay the out of broadcasting. It's not your calling. You need to be able to be a good storyteller and a good listener, and work off of what somebody else says. If you're not good at that, but the thing is, everyone thinks they are.
Mhm.
Like, how many times in your career has somebody come up and said, I would be so good at your job? That's really insulting. Don't say
good
that.
job. Go for it.
Yeah.
Try.
I dare you. None of this happened overnight. I didn't come on the air and was good instantly. You should have me on the air with you. No, I really shouldn't.
Yeah. How about, we'll work on that. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. How about if I tail you at your job for the day and tell you everything you're doing wrong?
Right. I'm still waiting for the day when I'm good. So there's that. But, Buck Cherry, right?
Oh, yeah. Josh Todd's a cool guy.
Yes.
He's a very nice dude.
They came through, and same thing. They came by. We hung out for a while. They played some songs, acoustic. And then we went to Kobe's in town. Delicious Japanese steakhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And we had...
There's one here where I live too.
And we had some hibachi. And I got to sit next to him, which, again, kind of the like... It's the lead singer, Buck Cherry, and he's sitting next to me. What do I talk about? I'm just a radio schmuck from North Dakota.
Mm-hmm. Just talk.
But then I just like, man, when you're not on tour and you're not working 152 days of the year going between different places, like, what do? He has go-karts, professional go-karts that are an inch and a half off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
That can go over 100 miles per hour.
Yep. I read that somewhere. I read an interview with him. And I was like,
what?
I was like, that seems really incongruous for a guy who writes songs about being high on cocaine.
You're right. I
like go-karts.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to go fast.
Who pointed out something to me? It was one of my very first interviews I ever did. And I never forgot this because he was an absolute prince. Was Gary Rossington from Leonard Skinner.
Skinner!
Yeah. Skinner! He said...
We need John Roberts on the show to
oh, my God. That would be so much fun having Rob. Rob and I got along great for years. I love that.
I miss that guy.
Anyway, so... Yeah. I was a pup jock. I was about 24, I think, 23, 24. And my first big interview, so I was nervous because I love Leonard Skinner. I think Gary Rossington's an incredible guitar player, super underrated. And I've got my list of questions, and I'm not straying from them. And I decided, during the conversation, I'll just try and talk to him. I started by being a fanboy. I'm like, I'm such a huge fan of your guitar playing, guitar playing myself, and blah blah blah. And I said, what's the hardest thing for you on the road? And he said, sometimes it's stuff like this. He goes, if you listen to the lyrics of our song, Don't Ask Me No Questions, what Ronnie says there is true. If you want to talk fishing, that's okay. But, if you want to talk about this business, we're done. He'd rather just talk. And that really stuck with me. And so I've met Motley Crue twice, like as a Black Crowes and Ozzy and Goo Goo Dolls and No Doubt. And, one of the perks of being in the business. And probably one of my favorites that I ever met personally and hung out with was Frank Hannon from Tesla. I first met him when he was with a band called Moondog Maine. It was after Tesla kind of parted ways for a while, sadly. Because, if you don't like Tesla, off. I love Tesla. They're a fantastic band.
I play a lot of Tesla these days.
I love Tesla.
Yes.
I love Tesla. Tommy and Frank are like one of the best guitar tandems ever. Frank Hannon was the nicest, sweetest guy to me. We emailed for a while, and this would have been Moondog Maine, I think would have been in like 98, 99, somewhere in there. I think in 98. They came into the studio and they did a live version of their song at the time, a song called Turn It Up, and it was really cool. And they played the Westward Ho, and the original Westward Ho. And like 12 years later, I want to say, 11 to 10 or 11 years later, somewhere in there, it was a long time. They played Monoman, the casino in Monoman, Minnesota. And I got to do the welcome for that. And of course, I'm backstage, and there's Tesla. They're reformed. And Frank Hanna comes up, and we hadn't spoken in that whole time. Frank Hanna comes up, "Hey, Paul," and shakes my hand. And I was like, "You remembered me from a decade ago?" It just blew me away. And he goes, "Yeah, you were just like one of the guys. You weren't, like typical radio slime." And I was like, that was like one of the nicest compliments I ever got.
I love that.
You weren't typical radio slime. And he goes, "You're a musician, and we get along so great." And then I found out that Jeff Keith, the lead singer for Tesla, is a massive Raider fan, and I'm a huge Raiders fan too. So we got talking about that, and you just talk about anything but their career or what the next album's going to be or whatever. That's for people listening, if you've never gotten to meet a celebrity, don't treat them like a celebrity. Treat them like a person, unless it's somebody like I don't know, Taylor Swift. She probably wants to talk about her career, but I don't know. I know. I mean, I better not say that the wrath of the Swifties is fast and furious.
And how we're actually going to get clicks, and we're going to get sent into YouTube purgatory.
Yeah. Son of a bitch! They said something bad about Taylor Swift. Kill that guy.
Make sure you downvote this video.
Yeah.
No, he had 2 likes.
Yeah, that's if you want to make an impression on somebody famous when you talk to them like they're a person. Just talk. Don't it's okay to fanboy a little bit. I think like when I met Ace Frehley, that's like Ace is God to me. Ace was God, and I literally got choked up and I couldn't make any sound come out. And all he did is he reached out and put his hand on my shoulder. He's like, "It's okay, Curly." He calls everybody Curly. He's got that kind of high squeaky voice, but he was really kind. And I calmed down and I was like, "Wow, what an honor to meet you." And you're the reason I play guitar. And I fanboyed for a few minutes. And then I was like, "How's your wife?" He's like, "Oh, she's great." And how's your daughter? She I know she's got a career in music too. And it turned into 20 minutes of the best, best 20 minutes of my life, just hanging out, just talking with Ace Frehley. I'm sure Ace wouldn't remember me because Ace doesn't remember a lot of stuff. But
it happens. It happens.
It does. Yeah.
For you, or even anybody randomly coming upon this part of the video and you reminiscing about interviews and things like that, the episode. Howard, refresh my memory. Was it our 100th episode, or was it the episode with Clinton where we really dove deep and played a little inside baseball and radio? Maybe both.
It was not the 100th, because the 100th episode we had like everybody who's ever been on the show
Mm-hmm.
But it was the episode that you did with him while I was on hiatus.
For you, Paul, you might really enjoy that episode because you obviously know the inside of inside baseball when it comes to radio and dealing with artists and record labels and things like that. So that one might be an hour and a half, 2 hour sit down, however long it was, where a little bit more current compared to some of the stories you shared from 90s conclave.
Mm-hmm. No school like the old school, baby.
Yes. Being a little different. Because now
if you remember it, you weren't there.
Yeah. What? Well, Binky said she remembered conclave, and that was, I don't know, 10 years ago.
Yeah. Picture Binky at conclave. No offense, Bink, if you're listening. It doesn't seem like you're seen. But
that would be funny if Binky catches this episode.
Yeah. So we used to greet each other because we actually had a side hustle together at a restaurant in Grand Forks called Capone's, run by her aunt. And we had a very special way of greeting each other, which was you, Binky, you, Paul.
Yep,
and it was that
I
way
remember that
for years and years and years and years.
In the halls, it was hilarious. Yeah. In the Grand Forks station are very small because it's an old gas station.
Mm-hmm.
And and Howard, you've been in the Grand Forks radio station several times, but the way that it was set up is the radio booths for each station were set up around the perimeter, and then the cubicles were in the middle. Of course, you had to walk down that ramp, and that was used to be, and PK, correct me if I'm wrong, but that used to be the shop area where they would work on vehicles.
Yep. That was the mechanic shop. Yep.
That was the old garage.
Yeah. You know what's even cooler is, you know who you should have on here sometime? Get Dangerous Dave on here, Dave Andrews. You want to hear some old time radio war stories? He's even more of a grizzled warhorse than I am. He's got some awesome stories.
Yeah, he was bitter when I was there.
Oh my god! Nobody loved to hate radio more than Dave Andrews.
Probably still true to this day.
And one of the hardest working guys, maybe the hardest working guy I've ever met, and genuinely talented, and genuinely cared about his job and cared about people. The people he worked with, you were saying earlier, it's not a job. It is like a family, Yep. When I left Grand Forks and moved here, it was this huge outpouring of affection, and I've had nothing like that since. I've been in my current job now for almost 10 years, and I've made some good friends. In fact, my best friends here, I made at the current job I'm in, but it's not like, it doesn't have the same atmosphere of going to war together like we do in radio, which people like, it's radio. How hard can it be? It can be very hard. It's not an easy, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And it's also very fun. You have to be honest. It's a pretty cool job. Like Rock and Rick always used to say, beats the shit out of digging ditches. He's 100% right. Yeah. There's a lot worse jobs you can have, but if I had a nickel for every 60 or 70 hour work week I put in, I'd have a load of nickels. I would have a lot of money.
Yeah. Every once in a while I come across a photo, one of our severe weather, when there was a tornado heading toward Grand Forks, and we took over all the stations.
Yeah. Oh God, your wet dream. And no, there's no bigger weather nerd. You got a weather map up behind you.
Yeah, it's by the way, thanks for putting that up, PK. That is the KRDN Eyewitness Weather Now weather stream 24/7, direct from yours truly. Yes, I have my own weather stream.
My
Thank
God.
you. PK almost threw
biggest weather geek
his black chair.
I did.
That's great.
Dude, we would be in the top 10 of the Rock and Roll 500. And Mark would be like, and now the weather, and he'd take 10 minutes to do the weather. I'm like, Mark, shut the up. We're trying to do a countdown. Yeah. No one gives a shit about the weather right now.
Who cares about the #1 rock and roll song? We're all gonna die.
But he'd be getting and the barometric pressures. Who gives a no one cares about the barometric pressure, kidder.
Excuse me, Paul Kelly. I care about the barometric pressure because the atmosphere is always trying to get me down.
Oh God! I think it was the last Rock and Roll 500 I did. We were by song 6 or 5, and Mark gave me so 30 seconds in radio is forever. Yes. And Mark gave a 3-minute weather forecast. And I was like, I'm quarterbacking everything. So I'm queuing up songs and liners and trying to answer the phone. And Mark is just going on.
I gave you plenty of time, didn't know you were on the phone
way too much time. Cause I'm like, is done yet? What is happening?
No, I'm not done. We're going to make the Rock and Roll 500 go into Tuesday. God. Okay.
It lasted, a
Tuesday,
3 full days. I mean, it was an undertaking. Or even tougher to do was was KJ 108 A to Z.
Yes, A to Z, the A to Z year celebration.
Yeah, it wasn't tough to program. It was tough to jock through that, to play that stuff, because it was every song we had in our library alphabetically from A to Z
by song title.
Yeah, by song title. And it always bugged me because the liner that Mars put together said everything from AC/DC to ZZ Top. I'm like, no, it's by song title, not by band. It used to make me insane. And then Brian alphabetized it wrong. He would alphabetize by article, like A and the. I'm like, no, you don't count the article when you're alphabetized. Whatever. Whatever, Brian.
Yeah.
But it was to get through that, man. That was hard. It was fun though. A lot of fun.
And then you get stuck. I always loved when you got to switch letters. If you had the show, when you got to switch, yeah, none of the A's. Holy crap, we're here. And now B. Here's the next 12 hours of your life.
Yeah. Well, just the letter S took like 2 days to get through all the songs starting with S. Scintillating podcast right now. We should move on to something less boring because this is dull.
Like what?
I'm just listening. Although I do have to ask because it's big news, at least for the month of December. But PK, since you are a Kiss fan, how do you feel about the big news that they are going to be living forever and touring forever as virtual avatars?
He's already smirking.
If there's a way to make a nickel, Kiss will figure it out. Every time someone says Kiss, Gene Simmons gets a quarter. Which you have to give
saying that we can't afford it.
Holy shit, we're already down $17. I think it's pretty cool. I really do. Like, what other band is big enough to do that? The Beatles? Metallica's not big enough. No. The Beatles, maybe the Stones, Michael Jackson. I mean, absolute icons of music. Anywhere you go in the world, if you see those four made-up faces, you know who it is. People know that's Kiss. They may not be able to name one song by the band, maybe not even Rock and Roll All Night. But what a brilliant move to keep Kiss alive for like my second youngest kid, Nick, is also a massive Kiss fan, and he just turned 23. So I know that he's going to pass on Kiss to his kids the same way I did for him. Like when he was like 3, I'm like, son, this is Gene Simmons. And he's like, Gene Simmons, but to this day, he's a huge Kiss fan. So, I mean, by that time, Gene and Paul are in their 70s. They're not going to be around forever. So seeing Kiss virtually will keep alive. If you've never been to a Kiss show, I don't think you can appreciate them as a band. So this will be the next best thing. People ask me all the time, because I was in radio, hey man, what's the best show you ever went to? What's the best show you've ever seen? And my answer is always the same: counting Kiss or not counting Kiss. Because the 14 best shows I've ever seen have been Kiss. Matter of fact, for an early anniversary present, when they came through this town in 2018, my wife got us second row center for Kiss. Yeah. Which was amazing. And because I'd never been even remotely that close. So experience of a lifetime. But just going to Kiss it's different than going to ZZ Top or going to, pick a band. It's a completely different experience. So if they can capture a little bit of that and make it virtual and use AI or whatever to make that, great, because that'll carry on. Somebody will get a taste of what it was like to see Kiss at the height of their powers, which is it's sensory overload. It's a 3-ring. You don't know where to look. It's Gene Simmons is breathing fire and spitting blood and humping his bass, and Paul Stanley's banga 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 like a pogo stick, and Ace is leaned back. His guitar is on fire, and Peter's drum kit is humongous, and bong, and he hits the gong, and the gong's on fire, and everything's on fire, and it's if you've never experienced it, you should, and if the only way you can experience it is virtually like that or through AI or then that's great. Because I think everyone should have the experience of seeing Kiss live. If you've only ever seen videos or just listened to their music, it's not the same. Even listening to a Live or a Live 2 or a Live 3 or what, all their live albums. Even like Spotify has Kiss off the soundboard. It's different. You get a little bit of that energy, but unless you're there, you're never, like Bill Tanner and I used to have this argument all the time. Is that the band with the kitty cat drummer? Yeah, and the demon bass player will light your ass on fire, you Grateful Dead fan. Tell me that the Dead put on a better show than Kiss? I don't think so. And, he used to make fun of me for it, and Mars did too, which is funny because Mars is also a closet Kiss fan. He'll admit it too. I asked Bill on the air, as a matter of fact, I said, have you ever seen Kiss live? Well, no, then you don't know what you're talking about. And we actually kind of got into a little bit on the air, like genuinely kind of pissed off at each other. Because I was just sick of him bashing Kiss all the time because he's a Grateful Dead guy, which is fine. I mean, you like the Dead all you want. They don't compare to Kiss. Kiss had eaten him alive on stage. There's no comparison. And I was like, have you ever seen Kiss live? And he's, well, no. Well, you then. You have no idea what you're talking about. At that point, I think I'd seen Kiss 10 or 11 times. I saw him every year from 79 to 89, and I missed a couple of years in the 90s. And then I saw him three more times after that. So, yeah.
Two questions for you.
Yeah, sure.
Related to Kiss. Number one, Domino.
Mm-hmm.
Standard rotation song on radio or not?
I think in this climate, no. I would personally not feel comfortable playing that because the subject matter. If you don't know the song Domino by Kiss, it's about an older man trying to get in a teenage girl's pants.
We play it.
Well, not trying, but actually doing it. After Me Too, just with the shifting social mores, I don't know that I would. And, you know, for those of you who don't know me, and I don't know what your guys' political leanings are, I'm pretty far to the left. I'm very lefty. And whatever your political beliefs are, fine. That's great. You know, whatever your socio-political leanings are, that's cool. Do your thing. For me personally, I would say no. I'm not going to put that song in rotation.
We play.
That's a battle I'd rather not fight. Like, you know, what do you say to a mom who calls into your station when you're playing that and said, "What if this was your daughter? What if this was my daughter? Is it still a good song?" I don't think so. Not to me. No, I don't think so. Question 2, hit me. Sure.
Have you been to Las Vegas, and have you been to the Rio All Suites Resort and Casino to play the Kiss mini golf?
Yep. There are pictures of me doing it, as a matter of fact.
Okay, good.
So, as you know, I'm a huge lifelong Raider fan. So, and my wife and I got married in Las Vegas. We had a destination wedding. It was super fun. The day before we got married, it was me, one of my groomsmen, my buddy John, as a matter of fact, our Halo buddy, and my brother went to the Rio and played Kiss mini golf and looked at all of the guitars and the boots. And the coolest thing they have there is the silver Porsche. I think it's a 911 that Gene and Paul bought Eric Carr when he joined the band as a welcome to the band gift. And that was really moving for me because if you don't know, Eric Carr passed away years ago now, like 91, I think, was when Eric passed. And that was genuinely touching. Like, I got a little choked up. And it's really cool because there's like one of Gene's axe bases, Paul's mirrored Iceman, Ibanez Iceman, and, you know, stuff like that. Other cool thing about Vegas, other than like coolest thing is because that's where I got married. Then the Kiss thing at Rio, and then I got anniversary present from my wife, 21. I got a tour of Allegiant Stadium, and like into the locker room, the press boxes, the owners' boxes, all that, and that was a great day. That was pretty cool. For a lifelong Raider fan, that was pretty kick. It's not expensive. I think it's only like it's under $100 a person. So if you go to Las Vegas, even if you're not a Raider fan, if you're not a football fan, you get to go down on the field and you get a couple of free drinks afterwards. It's 100% worth your time. The facility itself is just breathtaking. Mm-hmm. It's so cool.
Huge.
If you've never been to, they call it the Death Star.
Yeah.
Allegiant Stadium. It's massive and it's just so cool. My wife, not a sports fan at all, and she enjoyed the out of it. So, strongly recommend it.
The reason I ask is because the Star Trek Las Vegas convention is typically held at the Rio, except for one year in the past 8, and I've been going pretty much every year. And it would have been kind of a travesty had I played Kiss mini golf before you. So that would, I don't know what kind of universe we'd have to put up with after that, but I mean, you know, that probably would have been a problem. So yes, right around my birthday is the STLV, the Star Trek Las Vegas, and love going to the Rio for that.
Let me see how good my memory is. August, correct?
Yeah.
Boom, baby. Still got it.
Yes.
I'm not senile yet.
Nah, we are. Howard's thinking. He had the thinking face.
Well, yeah, this has been a great conversation, Kidder, and I hate to do this. Especially, because we're having a lot of fun.
This is a long podcast. I assume you're going to down.
I got to throw this out at you.
Cabinet of Curiosity. What the hell is that?
This is a speakeasy at Harrah's. Or not at Harrah's, at Bally's.
Okay.
And it's phenomenal. They'll not only your traditional speakeasy drinks, but they will also create custom cocktails just for you out of what you like. And it's a one-of-a-kind drink because it's made just for you.
Cool. Bally's is kind of, Vegas is kind of my wife's home away from home. She loves Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And I've gained an appreciation of it myself. Still not my favorite place. Like, my favorite city in the world to go to is Chicago. I love Chicago. I just love the whole vibe. Vegas is her playground. And if I said, hey, we should let's go to Vegas. Kidder was telling me about this place at Bally's called the Cabinet, and she'd be like, well, let's see. I'm booking a flight now. If I say, let's go to Vegas, we're going. So, yeah, cool. I will. Howard, you're trying to wrap this up, man, huh?
Well, yes, on that traditional Howard Stomped transition. Kidder! We've been talking for quite a while. It's time that we wrap this show up with some cheap plugs.
Well, they're not so cheap tonight. In fact, they're a little extra premium because we've had a premium guest on. And you know what happens when there's a premium guest? That is the premium.
That's right. The kiss the talent's ass.
Of the premiumist cheap plugs. First of all, our website, beerbluesbs.com, beerbluesbs.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see it at the bottom of your screen right now. beerbluesbs.com. On the website, you got our profile, so you can figure out what the hell this show's all about. Plus, you can buy us a beer, maybe buy us around, and it goes into our PayPal account. So thanks to PayPal for sponsoring us in that
buy me a guitar. That'd be okay.
Free sort of way. Yeah. If you want to,
I'm still short like 3-4 guitars that I need to complete my collection. So,
and if you want to buy Paul Kelly a guitar, send us the money. We'll make sure he gets it.
Number one would be a Rickenbacker 4001S bass in jet glow. All the guitar nerds out there are like, "Oh, good pick, dude."
Love it. Also on our website, and listen to the audio versions from Podbean. More importantly, how about a merch store? You want to support the Triple B? Get some sweet swag. We're talking pint glasses just like this one, the Triple B pint glass right here. beerbluesbs.com's got our website right at the bottom and our sweet logo. How about, I know Paul Kelly likes quite the old-fashioned. Well, this right here is the best old-fashioned recipe that you can get anywhere. No freaking cherry in an old-fashioned. Why? Because that's a Wisconsin old-fashioned, not a regular old-fashioned. It's not an old-fashioned. You want an old-fashioned? Get one right here. beerbluesbs.com. Click on merch. Pint glass T-shirt. Shower curtain. You can get a throw blanket for your sweet bed if you want.
Do you guys not have T-shirts?
Yeah,
do you have T-shirts? Well, t-shirts. I better get a T-shirt for coming on your show.
Sorry, PK, we don't have the budget for that. We're gonna have to make you buy the T-shirt. We'll give you a discount.
I don't work for free, me buckle.
You can save 20%.
I wipe my ass with 20%. It's save 20%.
Well, hey, speaking of that, if you have maybe in the bathroom while you're wiping said ass with 20%, how about a shower curtain? Yeah, you can get a shower curtain with my face on it, saying that you will have a water with hops and grain.
That just makes me uncomfortable.
I mean, look, I'm smiling at you like this is the best of your life. So enjoy your time, my friend.
That's you look like a pedophile.
Ouch. Okay.
Howard's like, edit.
The fun inside fact is the image of Kidder there is one of from his wedding day. So
yes. Your poor wife, man.
fun fact.
No.
Yeah. A couple of my friends call my wife Saint Teresa for putting up with me. So
Poor me. All right. Get a sticker. BeerBluesBS.com. We need you to get a sticker. Help us out. Look at that. Nice, classy sticker. Put on your car, and then they'll yell at us instead of yell at you with your crappy driving.
amazing.
Something like that. BeerBluesBS.com. Also, you can subscribe to the show. $1 a month can help keep us from starving and help keep the show on the air. Streamlabs.com/beerbluesbs. Again, streamlabs.com/beerbluesbs. We have a merch store there with some other shirts like the Big D Business Center, perhaps a premium t-shirt, or just a Triple B Classic. And of course, you can donate to the show as well. BeerBluesBS on Streamlabs. That is streamlabs.com/beerbluesbs. If you want to watch the show, you're watching this, thank you for being here. We're on YouTube. Just subscribe to our channel and smash that sub button and hit the thumbs up, please. We got to beat the algorithm. You know what I mean? Other than that, we are on all of the auditory services that are out there for audio podcasts: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, IMDb, Player FM, and Podbean. And I'm sure there's even more that are ripping us off. And subscribe to those too, because hell, it'll probably count for one of our likes.
It might.
So please.
You never know.
Please.
You know, guys, when Mark hit me about a week ago, and he's just out of the blue, and we didn't get a chance to talk about the Scorpions thing, because that's what you sent me an audio clip.
Yes, it's the Scorpions! Klaus is the vocals! And Transbucos on the bass!
We can edit out something else, because we got to get the Scorpions thing in there. This is actually how Mark and I got to be friends. So when I was still doing overnights on KJ way back when, we had carts. If you don't know what a cart is, it's like an 8-track cassette, but it's only got about 30 seconds of tape in it. And our consulting station at the time was KQRS in the cities. Anytime an artist would roll through there, because they're a big state, they're like a Market 12 or whatever, they're huge. Because they were our consultants, like if they had Van Halen come through, or April Wine, or the Scorpions, or whoever come through there, they'd have them cut liners saying, hey, this is whoever, you listen to KQRS, and they'd have, hey, would you do one for KJ in Grand Forks? They're our little brother. And 9 times out of 10, they'd be like, yeah, sure. So I was doing it overnight, and I saw, I got Big City Nights coming up, one of my favorite Scorps tunes, probably my favorite Scorpions song. And I see a cart, Scorpions Station ID. I was like, tits, that's like one of the first things I could do. I could play a Scorpions liner. So I put the cart in, and I've got Big City Nights queued up, and I hit the cart, and all of those, hello, this is Klaus Meine und Rudi Schenker, und wir are Scorpions. I mean, they just screaming their heads off. You're tuned to KJ 108, now leave it on. And I'm like, that is the most German thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm howling with laughter, and I realized I forgot to push play on Big City Nights. So from that point on, forever, anytime I started playing the Scorpions, it was Scorpions with Klaus Meine on lead vocals, und Rudi Schenker, Franz Buchholz, or whatever. And Mark started doing it too, and it kind of became a running gag at KJ for like a decade. Like, I mean, it was, I still do it. Like, a couple of my friends like, do the Scorpions thing. So, and Mark sent me an audio clip, and he's like, oh, and by the way, you should come on my podcast. So that's how we ended up here tonight. We can
Scorpions!
We can thank the Scorpions.
Did the clip go so far as the part after that? Because usually I bring up Germany because we actually get quite a few listeners from Germany. Kidder does that bit, and then the next thing that follows is, and I'd like to apologize to all of our listeners in Germany.
What are you saying sorry about? This is classy.
Don't make fun of the German people. And German rock bands with the big hair and the leather pants. The leader horse.
They will rock you, but they will rock you like the
Right,
hurricane.
I'm Hurricane.
Commence the rocking! Engage with the rocking!
And so rocking and so rolling and so banging of heads. Yeah, this is good.
And then, of course, as a little bit of a slight turn and down the hallway, a little bit of the mang.
Yeah, no kid. That's a Rob, isn't it? That's John Roberts.
He got
Started
me
doing
into
the
that, and then both of us would have mang off.
Mang. Yeah,
because we'd show up at the studio about the same time, and I'd sit in there with him, and every once in a while he'd be like, I got Metallica, and I'm like, Metallica, what? And he's like, oh yeah, kidder, hold on, you're not on for like 3 hours, like settle down. But then we started manging, when we'd have a mang off. So then every mang, anytime,
play some Zeppelin, mang.
He'd do it, I'd do it. PK would start doing it. We're all mang. So it's like mang in the box.
Yeah.
I mean, I still do it to this day. Anything like fire woman. Anything with man in it. I'm like, mang.
He's a real nowhere mang.
Yep. Exactly.
All right.
It is still going in 2024.
But before Howard has an aneurysm, we should probably let this shoot. You guys, thank you so much. I had an absolute blast tonight. I've never done anything like this before. It's nice to be remembered. I'm genuinely flattered to be remembered in any capacity. So thank you so much. I had super amount of fun tonight. A great way to end my work week. So
yeah, man. It's a pleasure having you on, and I mean, we pretty much hit all the cheap plugs, so we might as well be done plugging the plugs.
Yeah, sure.
And with that little tidbit, Howard, final thought for you.
Take us out.
I mean, listen, we've covered a lot of ground here. I don't know how I follow up any of that.
At least the upper Midwest.
Yeah, so I'll save my final thought for next week.
You won't remember. You better write it down, you old man.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, well, for the one and only slap in the bass, Paul Kelly. Thanks, man. For Howard Blues, I am the man, the myth, legend, Mark Kidder. Thank you for joining us for this and every episode of Beer, Blues, and BS. Remember, keep your glass at least half full. There's free beer tomorrow, and we will catch you on down that funky slap in the bass Tuscan Highway. You have a great one. We'll see you on the next episode of Beer, Blues, and BS.
You have been listening to a UA production of Beer, Blues, and BS. If you enjoyed the show, help others find out about it by rating the show or leaving a review at your podcast listening service of choice. Thanks for listening, and may your glass never be empty. UA Productions presents A Glimpse Behind the Curtain.
Well, cool.
We could use another light if you wanted to illuminate yourself a little bit.
No, I like the dark, man. You know what I mean?
It's going to be great. You got about 12 pixels per face on you.
See, the only other option I had, the overhead light in here is really bright, and that's why I have these tinted glasses in here.
Yeah.
And because this is my work, this is where I work too. It's right here. This is my work computer.
Love it.
So when the sun comes across during the day, I get sun all day long in here, and it's bright as and I'm just like, oh God. So I'm staring at a computer screen all day. And I don't know you to the right of Mark on my screen.
So I could let him introduce himself, but
please,
for years
yeah.
he's been known as Silent Bob because he comes along to shows and with me, and everybody's like, "Who's this? What time is he on the air?" And back in the day, but his code name is Howard Blues. This is my buddy Chris. We went to high school together here in Bismarck, and then college at UND, and potentially was at any of our KJ remotes or everything.
Oh, yeah. Hi, baby. My wife just poked her head in. You want to come and say hi to Mark? She's like, no.
Well, Jesus H. Christ. Okay. And we haven't officially started yet. I mean, this is all just stuff for him to edit in and out. So if she does.
See, now, Howard, now I remember you. I remember seeing you at a couple of KJ remotes. I'm like, oh, that's Kidder's buddy.
Yep.
He was always the one holding the camera. Because when he'd come along, I wouldn't have to sit and struggle to try and take pictures of stuff and talk to people without being like, hey man, what's going on? Oh, can I get some of your free pizzas or whatever you give it away? Can I have 12 of them?
Yeah.
No.
You know what? I've not been on the air in Grand Forks since 2015. And every time Teresa and I drive up there, no matter where we are, if we're in the mall, or we go to the Diamond, we go to McDonald's, anywhere, somebody will come up with, dude, PK, remember when you gave me a shirt in 1997? No.
Sure, dude.
You know how hammered I was in 1997 all the time?
Well, you know how hammered you are still in 2015.
Yeah.